Hello, my name is Candace Benizak, and I will be doing my negotiation presentation on buying my new apartment. My family and I decided it was time for me to get my own place to live in Baton Rouge since I was most likely staying in the city after graduating from the MBA program. We eventually found a one-bedroom apartment in a nice complex not far from LSU's campus. Since we were buying an apartment and not renting, my family and I decided it was best for my parents to be the owners. I had not met the current owners because they had moved to a different location outside of Louisiana, but I was given their email address so we could converse about pricing. This way, we would also have a record of what was agreed upon. In preparation for the negotiation, I discussed acceptable prices with my dad. From there, I set an asking price, target point, and resistance point in reference to distributive bargaining. When it came time to negotiate, I began the process by sending the owners my initial offer of $110,000. The owners immediately revealed to me their resistance point of $120,000. Negotiating continued with using the split the difference tactic by asking the owners for my target point price of $115,000. We ran into a bit of an interpersonal conflict with the owners when we realized they weren't willing to budge on their offer. This was probably because they had known we were under strict time constraints and therefore used their power based on resource control. In reference to the dual concerns model, the owners seemed to have a contending style of conflict management, meaning they were pursuing their own outcomes with little concern for mine. They even used the crunch tactic during the negotiation by telling me I had to do better than $115,000 or they were not going to sell. After almost 2 weeks of negotiating, it became clear that the owners wanted nothing less than $120,000. My father told me that we definitely couldn't pay that much for the apartment because we had to keep in mind the amount we were going to spend on renovating it. The owner's asking price was just too much, and we decided not to buy that apartment. Shortly after we had just thought we were out of luck, another one-bedroom apartment became available in the same complex. The owners of this apartment had just recently moved to New York, so I decided to contact them via email as well. I also decided with my dad to keep the same asking price, target point, and resistance point. Before initiating the negotiation, I talked to my dad and we both agreed to adding closing costs as another term to the negotiation so I could leverage more aspects of the agreement other than just the price. My dad and I also decided to have a BATNA to avoid not coming to a mutual agreement like the previous negotiation. The negotiation process began with me sending the owners my initial offer of $110,000 and informing them that I wanted to move in as soon as possible to start renovating. Since the previous negotiation had taken longer than expected, I was now under strict time constraints to find a place to live. With this, I informed the owners of a deadline to respond to my offer, which I had set to 5 days. I also offered to pay half of the closing cost if we were able to come to an agreement on that price. The owners replied shortly after and never revealed to us how much they were asking, but accepted my offer instead. They also used a nibbling tactic by telling me we could start renovating the apartment before the legal buying process was finalized by the bank for an extra $400. Unlike the owners of the first apartment, these owners were concerned about their own outcomes as well as mine, which, as stated in the dual concerns model, is a problem-solving approach to conflict management. This negotiation was definitely more of an integrative situation, as both myself and the other party invented options for our mutual benefit. In terms of closing the deal, we were able to provide more alternatives with the closing costs, making it easier to reach an agreement. The outcome of the agreement consisted of the owners paying $2,000 in closing costs, while we paid $110,000 for the apartment itself, $800 in closing costs, and the extra $400 to start renovating. Since I was able to buy the apartment at my initial asking price, it turned out to be a successful negotiation in my favor, and we were able to start renovating it right away. I definitely took a lot away from this negotiation. I learned that negotiating is difficult, challenging, and it's sometimes frustrating. However, I've also learned that the degree of difficulty depends a lot upon the other party's negotiation style, as well as my own, and how much each party is willing to give and take. I didn't consider the nature of the relationships in my negotiations, since I was only speaking to the owners for the purpose of buying their apartment. 1 month later, and I finally have a place to call my own with the help of my parents. It was a lot of time, work, and stress, but it was definitely all worth it in the end.